Hey guys, my name is Tito. I make videos on personal finance. On my other channel, on this channel, I talk about other things, like today when I'll be reviewing the new Nollywood film in cinemas, Domitilla. Domitilla is a drama that revolves around the lives of four female characters trying to survive in Lagos as high-class call girls. They soon come to discover, however, that this life they've chosen comes at a serious price, and it's not for the faint of heart. Now, this is going to be a spoiler-free review because this film came out just a week ago, and even though lots of people are yet to see it, I do anticipate that in the weeks to come, lots of people are going to go and see this film in the cinema, and for their benefit, I'm not going to spoil the movie by dropping intricate details of the plot or of the movie, okay? Now, Domitilla 2023, it's a reboot of a movie from the 90s by the same name, Domitilla, and that was directed by Ejiro, and he also directs this reboot. Ejiro is a big deal in Nollywood. He's considered to be one of the pioneers of Nollywood as it is today, and he's responsible for several classics from that era, in the 90s. Movies like Domitilla 1, Domitilla 2, Sakobi the Snake Girl, Neka the Pretty Serpent, Mortal Inheritance, and Mortal Sin. So, yeah, Ejiro is a big deal in Nollywood. That said, should they have made this reboot? Was it good? Was it worth it? Should they have left it alone? Let's find out, first of all, by talking about the performances in this movie. Teniola Aladese. Teniola plays Fisayo, this young woman who inadvertently gets into the prostitution business. And Teniola's performance was average, to be honest. There wasn't... You could tell that Teniola was trying her best to deliver. She, really, when she needed to cry, she cried. When she needed to run, she ran. She was really giving a lot, into the character or to the character. But at the end of the day, it was just a bit average for me. Next, I want to talk about Uzoamaka Aniunoh. On a good day, Uzoamaka Aniunoh she's I'm almost tempted to say an exceptional actress. She takes her craft very seriously. She's a really good actress, and whenever I see her in something, her character stands out. I remember the character, not so much in this film. The character really did not stand out, and by no fault of Uzoamaka's. The problem was that this character was very bland. Anybody could have played this character that Uzoamaka played. So I think it wasn't necessarily befitting of the kind of committed actress that I think Uzoamaka is. Moving on to Ejiro Onajaife, if an actress I'm not too familiar with. She was also in this film as one of the ladies of the night. So all these women I've mentioned are ladies of the night. There are actually 4 of them. I'll mention the last one shortly. But yeah, so Ejiro plays one of these women of the night. She tries as well to deliver, but I don't know. It was just another average performance in my opinion. And I will get eventually, when I talk about what I didn't like about this film, you understand why I thought many of these performances were rather basic or just average. Oyinye Odokoro, who I really liked in the short film Japa Tale. She was really good in that. I enjoyed that short film. I raved about it a couple of months ago. So she was in this film, and I think she was the main character that we were meant to follow out of these 4 women, because I think of the 4 of them, she's the one we knew the most about in terms of her background and her family and her motivation for getting into the business of selling one's body. I have to be picky with my words because YouTube can be very selective when you're talking about racy subjects like being a street walker. Onyinye, her performance was another average performance, and it didn't give, the character rather didn't give what it was meant to give. They tried to do things with that character. That character was meant to be a central character. That character was meant to be very important, but I don't feel like it was executed the way it could have been. And as a result, Onyinye's performance was neither here nor there, if I'm being honest. Mind you, none of these 4 women's name in this film is Domitilla. That was quite a shock to me, that there was no character in this film. Sorry if this qualifies as a spoiler, but there was no character in this film whose name was Domitilla. What Domitilla was, or who Domitilla was, I will leave that out of this review. Moving on, Elvina Ibru was also in this film. She plays Madame V, and she plays this woman who is in charge of these ladies of the night. She's their madame, so to speak. And she's this mysterious character. She says the word delicious a whole lot of times as like her signature. The performance from Elvina Ibru in this film, I wasn't a fan of. As I was taking down notes while watching this film, I do remember saying, I understand what they're going for with this character, but it's not giving what it's meant to give. I wasn't really feeling it. And so I wasn't really a fan of the performance. I can't even say whether it was that it was a bad performance. Maybe it's the way, because I do know, I've seen Elvina Ibru in a number of films. I know what she's capable of. I know she's a decent actress. She's good, right? And I know that with the proper direction, and if that character was written a bit better and given better lines, Elvina Ibru would have delivered on the mandate and delivered a better character in this film, in the person of Madame V. But for a few reasons, which I'm not really entitled to talk about because I don't want to drop spoilers, I feel like the character didn't give what it was meant to give. Moving swiftly on, Deyemi Okanlawon was in this film as a police officer. If you've seen the trailer, you'll deduce that he was a police officer. And to be honest, if you've seen Deyemi in like 3 or 4 other films where he's a lead or a supporting, actor, then you've probably already you've seen Deyemi in this film. I think the point I'm trying to make is that there was nothing particularly unique about the character or the performance in this film. And once again, not necessarily a fault of any of the actors, but because the characters weren't really well developed and because they weren't well written. Chiwetalu, Agu, and Chinyere, Wilfred, they were also in this film. I think they had like one scene each. In fact, Chiwetalu Agu's scene was just like him coming for a wedding, and that was it. And he didn't really say much apart from greet the people at the wedding, and that was it. Chinyere Wilfred's scene, I don't even remember, what the scene was about, and it was very brief. I do remember it being brief. I remember her coming on screen. I was like, oh, okay, I saw her name somewhere. She's in the movie, but before I know it, the scene was done, and I don't see her again. But they're both in the film, and I think both of them are actually used to market the film, which is a bit unfair, seeing as they don't have that much of a role in the movie. What I liked. Sadly, there was nothing in this film that I enjoyed, and I think it's because I'm not the target audience for this film. This movie gave the vibe or the feeling of old Nollywood home videos, the type of films that we used to watch back in the day, or that you find on Africa Magic, all those Africa Magic channels, or the home videos, the Nollywood home videos that you find on YouTube and so on. If those are your types of films, then you most likely enjoy this film, Domitilla. But for me personally, wasn't my cup of tea. What I didn't like, the first thing that I didn't like about this film was the lighting. I think in the first 5 minutes of the movie, I found the lights to be a bit too bright, especially in the Enugu scene, and especially the tungsten lights. And at several points in the film, the lights were a bit distracting and it felt like they weren't really done well. In fact, there were a couple of, I can remember one scene specifically where it was suggested that it was daytime because from the window we were seeing bright daylight, but when a character walked in through the door, it was dark behind the character, suggesting that it was nighttime, but they were using artificial lights to project on the window to suggest that it was daytime. Moving on, the music, the background music and the soundtrack, in this film, I didn't enjoy it. It felt quite kind of tacky, to be honest. It felt like it came in at the wrong times and, it eased out at the wrong times as well. And even the music itself felt a bit strange. Also, lots of implausible scenarios or situations in this movie. I know it's a movie and, it's not meant to be entirely realistic, but there are just certain things that just didn't seem logical, at least logical enough for a moviegoer to digest sufficiently. Case in point, there's a club scene where a young woman in a club causes a distraction at the club, and then she goes and she robs the club of a significant sum of money, around 4 million naira. She didn't have a big bag. I don't even think she had a purse, and she was wearing like a short dress. So she takes some money. I don't even know if they show us the money, but she takes 4 million naira from the club, from their safe room or whatever. The question now is, where did she keep that money? She didn't have a bag. She didn't even go through the back door or anything like that. It just, so that was very hard for me to grasp. And there are a few other scenes like that in this film. I don't want to mention them, but if you see them, you'll be like, that doesn't make sense. So there was that. I also didn't like some of the sets in this film. For example, there's an interrogation scene in the movie where a police officer is interrogating a suspect, and it didn't look like an interrogation room. It looked like a big living room in a duplex that he tried to pass off as an interrogation room. And there are a few of those, honestly, some scenes that just didn't communicate what they were trying to communicate. Next, I didn't like that I found the characters in this film to be poorly developed. The characterization was not the best. And this is a problem because this film, Domitilla, is meant to be a cautionary tale on the dangers of going into the business of selling one's body for money. And the catchphrase of this movie is Ashewo no be woko, and that was like the catchphrase of the 90s version. And the objective of the film is to pass across the message to young girls and to just women generally that it's not good to go into this line of work, into prostitution. Fine, but it's hard to communicate that message when you haven't, or when you don't properly develop your characters enough to, especially enough to a point where your audience feels invested in those characters or cares about those characters. They weren't written well enough or developed well enough for us to really care about what happens to them one way or the other. Finally, I don't like the fact that there are some big name actors that were inserted into this movie, I think primarily to sell tickets or to get people to come and see the film, because they really didn't have that much impact on the movie. Who should see it? I think you should see Domitilla if you are a fan of old school Nollywood films. All those classic Nollywood films from the 90s, especially the ones that Zeb Ejiro also created. I think you'll enjoy this film as well. Yeah. In conclusion, I wish that this film was better written, because it felt at several points in this film like things were just going all over the place, especially with Onyinye's character and her family in Enugu. It felt like there should have been more there, but it just wasn't giving. And that was the case too with so many other things in this film. For me, personally, I don't know. I wish that it was better written. And to be honest, I wouldn't have minded if Play Networks was the one who handled this reboot, because I think they would have taken more chances. Remember, this film is about women of, ladies of the night, women who sell their bodies for money. And in that world, there are lots of unspeakable, unimaginable, salacious, scandalous things that happen, but we didn't really see much of that in this film. I think they told a safe path in this film, Domitilla, if you ask me personally. But, had Play Networks handled this film, I think they would have taken more risks and more chances. Anyway, guys, if you enjoyed this review, please like it by clicking on the like button, and subscribe to this channel as well by clicking on the black subscribe button. You doing those things would really help me, this video, and my channel a great deal. So please like and subscribe. Last week, I want to touch on this really quickly, right? Last week, I released my review of Gangs of Lagos. In it, I chose not to say what I didn't like about that film, and you should check out the comment section. People said lots of things. People were highly disappointed in me for making an exception because of my friends that were involved in that film. I see where all of you are coming from. I got an earful that day. I got all types of messages, both on YouTube and off YouTube. And I understand your disappointment, if I can call it that. But I also do know that it was a hard choice to make, but it's one I had to make because it's just because of the kind of person I am. Yeah, and I will not, you have to understand that not every review will be equal. Not every review will be, honestly, totally unbiased. There are reviews on my channel that, for one reason or the other, will be biased, if I'm being entirely honest with you. But I think, while you guys may not like that, I would like you to appreciate the fact that I'm being honest with you, that I'm forthright with you when I'm maybe going to take a different road from the one you expect me to take. I will tell you that maybe they're friends of mine in this film. I don't want to hurt their feelings, or maybe, I'm close with this platform or that platform. I will most likely inform you. I will be honest with you. And if at all you don't agree with what I say, I want you to at least appreciate the fact that I'm being honest with you. especially when I had the option to cap or to lie to you, to deceive you, or to just give you something else just to get you off my back. I think the fact that I'm being honest with you and my honesty and integrity, if we can call it that, I think it should count for something. And if it doesn't, if me being I don't know the word to use now, the phrase or term to use now, if however I go about things does not necessarily agree with you, then I guess there are other options. There are other fantastic reviewers here on YouTube. Ronke Sui, a friend of mine, Farida Mustafa, another friend of mine, Popcorn and Reels, Iroko Critic. There's so many other reviewers, many of whom are faceless, and because they're faceless, they can be more blunt than I am. But my point is, there are other reviewers. I'd hate to see you go, but if you don't, like the way I do things, if it just doesn't work for you, then it is what it is. We may just have to part ways, but I don't want to see you leave. I hope that you can understand where I come from and understand the fact that I'm human, and understand the fact that at no point did I place my hand on a Bible and take an oath, that I would deliver my reviews in a certain type of way. I am working on being better and giving more constructive, neutral, unbiased, analytical reviews that take my sentiments out of things. I'm working on getting there, but until that time, it essentially is what it is, basically. I hope you understand this somewhat long-winded speech that I've just made, and I hope you stick with me. But if you don't, it's been nice knowing you. Thank you guys so much for watching. I've already said what I needed to say. Like, subscribe, share, and I guess I'll see you guys in the next review. Take care.